Okay, everybody, this is Lecture 5, The Architecture of the Great Law of Peace, Ganya Nelengoa. Ganya Nelengoa. It means the Great Law of Peace. Peace. This is dedicated to my teacher who delivered the Great Law at the end of his life several times. Major event in our community, because very few people knew the Great Law like he did. So I dedicate this to him. Hadiagreta. He makes the clouds descend, the fog. He is a condoled chief of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy named Deohomide. He's the one who is so real in two ways, and we think those two ways, native, not native. He's of the snipe clan of the Cayuga Nation. Here he is with his Gastoa. The Cayuga Gastoa has one feather standing. And you see the deer horn. The chiefs wear a deer horn. And this is from the previous lecture, the condition of the men when this story begins. They're complete warriors. They've abandoned the women to the hills and the children, and all they do is war. They're cannibals. They're just a very degraded lifestyle. I called it dystopia in the last lecture. And the forests look like this. It was like an Eden, rich in tall white pines and stones, and there was flint in the ground and crystal, and it was very abundant. They didn't need a longhouse. They could live in the tree trunks or in the caves. Beautiful. Now, this is a blow-up map of a part of the Tyendinaga Mohawk Territory, which you pass when you're on the 401 going out to Belleville. You will see the sign, Tyendinaga MT, Mohawk Territory. And on that territory, it's very flat, you'll see in a minute, but there is a hill, just coming from nowhere, and it's called Eagle Hill. And this is the hill where our spiritual messenger was born over 1,000 years ago. It's a very sacred place, if we could call it, and it's like the Bethlehem of Iroquois culture. But it's not known by anybody, hardly visited by anybody, and certainly not by anybody who understands and loves the story. Just isn't. Here you see we're pulling back on the map. This is the territory here where the Eagle Hill is. Then you see we're on a waterway, and here is an inlet, and this is a very important inlet because our story begins right here with these two places. The first, Eagle Hill, the birth is a virgin birth of a young woman whose mother is really quite horrified that she's pregnant because there are no men around, and she's wondering how it happened. It was, in fact, a virgin birth. Her grandmother was frightened by it, thought it was a dark spirit coming, and so she didn't want the baby to be born, but it was born, and she tried to kill it. First by drowning it, then by putting it into the fire, and then by stabbing it. It wouldn't die. So she was quite aghast and admitted this is a special man. Now, he had white hair, which was very unusual. Native people are dark-skinned. He was also born of a mother of the Huron Nation. It's not one of the 5 nations of our Iroquois Confederacy. It's the Huron Nation. They come from up north. He grew to full manhood in 5 years and began teaching. He taught the men Thanksgiving, and then other ceremonials that we don't know the details of, but it was probably the ones that he gave us down here. He taught them the nature of clans. He taught the condolence, and he basically taught them how to build a long house. So it came to him at a certain point in his life, after he was through busily teaching the men there, that he had to come here and go across Lake Ontario. And to do that, it came to him that he would have to do a white stone canoe. And it's magical because, of course, stone can't float. But there are people today who swear that there is an evidence of the white stone canoe buried near this site, which is probably not true. Just to give you an idea, this is a modern canoe sitting in the still waters. And then this map shows the route that he took down through these islands and out into the known unknown. It's unknown, but he knows he's supposed to go there. The known unknown. That's what it looks like. Very flat land of forests and water. And this is my sketch. During the reading of the Great Law, I used a sketchbook to hold my attention. And this was my sketch of the white stone canoe. Here's a blow-up of the, or rather a long view of the sketch with the peacemaker at the top. And then all of our territories, which he's going to visit when he crosses the lake here. He will come to the Mohawks, to the Oneidas, to the Onondagas, to the Cayugas, and then finally to the Seneca. But he's not going to use a straight line. It's going to be a wandering line, the wandering line of the horned snake, a line that he's inspired to follow every day as he wakes up. Where am I going today? The elder is saying things while he is telling us this story, and one of the things he said in this reading, he said, "This is the man who does the evening rite." Probably the Thanksgiving at night. His message is peace, power, and righteousness I bring. Very important. Peace, power, righteousness. In peace and empowered by peace, you have righteousness. They shall care for one another. And when you cut off a life by will, you are not taken to the Creator. It's a warning. Do not kill. And here in red, you see outlined the actual journeying from the stories that we have. So it's a bit of a zigzag and crisscrossing of New York State. Probably took over 100 years. But you see, after he leaves Oswego, which is here, he goes west to Niagara Falls. Why is he going there? I neglected to tell you the first story. When he landed in Oswego, there was a man by himself cooking a stew in the longhouse, and the Gadawida went up on the roof and looked down through the smoke hole. His countenance was reflected in the soup, which was made of human flesh. And the cannibal, we call him the cannibal, said, "What a beautiful face. I can't eat this soup." And he was healed right then and there of cannibalism. That was the first healing in the Great Law. No eating of human flesh. There's the soup, presumably, what it might have looked like. Then he goes over to Niagara Falls, and there is a woman there who lives alone. Her name is Jagansesa. She's the one with the fat face. She is what some people might today call a divine prostitute, if you will, because the warriors would visit her in that village, going back and forth on the Niagara Gorge, and she would sleep with them. This was their rest. And in those times, they told her a lot of intimate things about what was happening in the territories, all across the territories. So she was very well informed. This is a map of where her village is. It's now the Niagara Falls Golf and Country Club. Here are the Whirlpool Falls, the Horned Snake's dwelling, and here we have, of course, the Great Niagara Falls. It's a very old map. Here are the weapons that the men used at that time. Very vicious. The flint driven into the head of a club made of wood burl. It was a dark place. Iroquois was very dark. And Daganoweda is going to bring light, all by himself. A strange young man with white hair, with a double row of teeth, because his name means he has a double row of teeth. He stuttered. What an unlikely messenger. But that's the way it is. It's those unlikely people that have these profound duties. So you should be very careful around people who have look like disabilities, because in the native way they are actually gifts, and those people have special things to teach us. And we know this today when we're trying to heal people with various birth defects and so forth. There's something extraordinary about them. Even people who are mentally ill who are supposedly mentally ill, carry beautiful duties. Jigansisa. Now, what she would do in her lodge, she would put a drape up down the center, a drape of deerskin, and so that she could sleep with one warrior on one side, talk to him, while the other warrior is on the other side of the drape, listening. Then she goes over there and she sleeps with him, and then she talks with him, and the other warrior hears it. So she's doing a kind of healing, because the two men presumably are actually enemies of each other. But when they're in her realm, she brings them together by putting them on either side of a curtain. And this curtain's tremendously important in Iroquois culture because we use it today. When we're accompanying people in grief, we put a drape down the longhouse, and those who are grieving are crying on one side, and the clear-minded people are on the other side. And we sing to them until they stop crying, and then we pull the drape back. It's part of our profound ceremonies. It's quite magical to be in the longhouse and see this happen. And it's happening today as we speak, but it doesn't get recorded. And I'm telling you now what it is, so you'll know how incredibly powerful and beautiful it is. Another map of that area. And again, we see the Niagara Falls Country Club. And that's what it looks like. Beautiful landscape rolling down to the Niagara River. This is the incredible home of Jigansisa. It's along the Warriors Trail. The trail is still there. My friend Brian Rice and I, actually have run on that trail. We were told by a wisdom keeper at Tuscarora where to find it, and we did. And we ran along the trail of our warrior ancestors. Still there, in the woods. Still trodden. Now, the next story, because we'll be coming back to that. Daganoweda sat with Jigansisa. She told him so many things. She said, I have a special duty for you. I'm going to come back for you. I'm going to make you the first clan mother. Clan mother? Oh, I didn't know. I never heard of such a thing. Oh, yeah. You are going to be the mother of people born under a certain animal totem. But I'll tell you about it later. But just wait for me, he said. I'll be back. Then he went all the way across New York State to what's today the Hudson River, to what's called the Mohawk River, and on the Mohawk River there's a waterfall right at the mouth of the Hudson called Cohoes. And it was here the Mohawk village that Daganoweda visited sat up on a ridge, and they were very aggressive. And when he said, I want to show you peace, power, and righteousness, they laughed at him. And they said, you're nothing special, but you're going to have to prove it to us. We're going to set you up on the edge of the cliff and sitting on a branch, and we're going to cut the branch off, and you're going to fall into the gorge of the Cohoes Falls, and presumably you'll die. So that's precisely what they did, and here it is today. I mean, the Mohawk River is kind of a muddy river today, and the Cohoes Falls is somewhat dried up, but it's still here, and this is our story, and many people live here on these grounds without even knowing the story. They're typical New York Americans who feel very entitled, and old Indian story only interests very few people. Okay, there's the Cohoes Falls, and here is my sketch of the pine tree with the great roots. They tied Daganoweda to it, and then they cut the branch off, and he falls into the gorge. In the morning, they see a smoke signal in the woods. So they go out to search for it. They said, maybe that's that Daganoweda. Sure enough, it was, and he was sitting there waiting for them quietly. You see? Are you going to listen to me now? They said, yes, we will. We'll listen to you. You obviously have a power. So that began the Mohawks' journey to become the first nation to accept the teachings of the Great Law of Peace. Put your weapons down. What Daganoweda would do, he would show them a single arrow with a projectile point on it, and he would break it in front of them. He said, you see, when you're on your own, easy to break. Now, he put 5 together. Can't break it. You must work together with your brothers in the other nations so that you're strong. And so, presumably they heard it. But one of the incredible members of that village, his name was very famous, Hiawatha. At this time, Hiawatha was living a nice life with he had 3 daughters, and he didn't go with Daganoweda, but he did hear Daganoweda. He will meet him again in the journey. Now next, we're going to a place called Tully Lake. It's in the heart of New York State. The story of Hiawatha, we pick it up. Hiawatha, his wife dies, and he is heartbroken. And then one daughter dies, a second daughter dies. He has one daughter left. Now that one daughter she takes care of her father. She was fetching water one day when all the men were playing a lacrosse game. Lacrosse is our national sport. And they saw a great silver bird. This is very intriguing to us. They saw a great silver bird coming in over the lacrosse field. What was that bird? They'd never seen anything like it. It's like a UFO. We don't have the term UFO, but that's what it was. It wasn't identifiable. And the crowd ran to chase this thing. It was riding very close to the ground, and they trampled Hiawatha's 3rd daughter to death. Now Hiawatha has no wife, no daughters. He's extremely despondent, and he decides to leave the village and wander in the woods. Who does he meet in the woods? None other than Daganoweda. And Daganoweda said, come with me, I'm going to take you to a lake, and I'm going to perform a ceremony on you. I'm going to call it condolence, comfort in your grief. And we're going to use wampum. Now, you don't have wampum yet. However, there is wampum at the bottom of Tully Lake. Where it came from, we don't know, but the birds rose up for the Ganawida and brought the wampum to the surface. And he gathered the wampum and made the first strings of the condolence, which I showed you last week. And this is Tully Lake today. It's very serene, upstate New York. And here are my chief with the 3 strings of the condolence wampum, actually doing the speech for us on site to show us what the Ganawida was saying and doing for Hiawatha. Firsthand. Amazing. Those are Jake's hands. This is Jake doing the speaking. I couldn't understand a lot of it because it was in either Onondaga or Mohawk. I don't speak. This is my sketch. This is how the condolence wampum are displayed on a branch over a sacred fire. And we had them on the rod last week, the aluminum rod, in this way. And then here is my very orderly drawing of the condolence wampum and the order of the dark and light beads and what part of the body that they address. So this is I've never seen a drawing like this. I created it. This is the complete explication of the condolence wampum. Free for anyone to use. The Onakatha, the condolence wampum of the Haudenosaunee. Now, you may or may not recognize this if you were in New York at the Metropolitan Museum. In the courtyard is this sculpture of Hiawatha, done by Daniel Chester French, the great American sculptor. This is his first sculpture that he did. He did it over in Paris. He's actually from Vermont, but he was an incredible sculptor. And if you go there today, you will see this evocation of Hiawatha in the beautiful, they call it the Sackler Gallery. It's where they have the Temple of Dendur from Egypt, and he's sitting outside of it. So you can imagine the conjunction of cultures that's coursing through my head when I see all this. Now, this is the lake near Tully Lake. It's called Lake Onondaga, Syracuse, New York, the University of Syracuse. This lake is right in the heart of the city. It's a filthy, filthy lake. They dump sewage directly into the lake in several places. It is awful. You see at the bottom here, this area here. This is the dumping ground of the sewage of Syracuse, and this is the further expression of it. This is the side of the lake that's inhabited, more or less. This is industrial. But when you realize this is the water that the Ganawida saw, then you see the level of pollution. It just makes your heart sink. But that's what it looks like. Now, there is Lake Onondaga. I'm going to take you now on a special journey right here outside the city of Syracuse to a secret area in the woods. There's a stream and a small island, and that is the secret home. It is a secret. Very few people know this, but you're going to see it. It's right here. I visited it several times. He's the chief of the Onondagas sat on this rock in the middle of the stream. Now this chief was a despot of the worst type, whether it's Saddam Hussein or any of those just ridiculously self-important leaders. This was one of them. And this is what it looked like. There was a forest and a stream, and he sat by himself on that rock. His people were so afraid of him, and they were afraid of him for kind of an interesting reason. Here you see the ceremony that they went to him with. But just to describe what he was like, he had snakes in his hair. And he also had, without getting too visceral, he had an enlarged penis that was so large he could wrap it around his waist. And he had snakes in his hair. He was a sight to behold, and everyone was deathly afraid of him, especially his own people, because he was a super sexualized demon, basically. And you see the dog here. This is Hiawatha, and behind him is Daganawida. They're going to give him the message. But the way they do it, they said, we can't go to him just cold like this. We have to take some women with us, and we have to sing to him the 6 songs, because the songs might break through to him. And sure enough, they did. So they told the Tadadaho that if he joined with the other nations, that they would give him a special place. They would make him the fire keeper of all nations. And that he would have to keep the fire burning at Onondaga at all times. He could never leave it. Which was Naganawida's way of saying, we're going to keep an eye on him, because we'll always know where he is. And, hopefully he will join us. And he did end up joining them, and they call him today the Tadadaho. And even to this day, we have a man at Onondaga who is given the title Tadadaho. So I left a few images here, but it's okay. So they have all the nations. The 2 nations on Oneida and Cayuga, they're the sweet younger brothers. They accepted the Great Law immediately. They're very gentle people, and they're not warriors. They still aren't warriors today. He had the last nation to go to, the Senecas at Niagara Falls and the Genesee Valley, which is a beautiful place filled with waterfalls and gorges. And they say that the Senecas accepted the Great Law during a total eclipse of the sun. So through archaeoastronomy, we've been able to pinpoint probably when that occurred, because they were able to trace when these full eclipses happened, and the one that is closest to our own stories and our own time frame, it occurred on August 18th of 909, the Common Era, which means it was over 1,000 years ago that the Great Law was finally accepted, and all the nations were joined together as one confederacy. This is the first known confederacy of nations on the planet, if you can believe it. There is no other record of any other consolidation of disparate nations finding peace together. And he gave us this. This is the soft boughs of the white pine tree. And the interesting thing about the white pine is that the needles are bound together in 5, which makes it unique. Other pine trees have 2, but this tree has 5. And so Daganawida said, this is your tree, these are the 5 nations, and this tree is very soft, unlike other pine trees. And this is the way your nature is supposed to be. You're supposed to be soft, not hard. Peaceful people are not hard. Be soft. So then he said, that is the centerpiece for your culture, the white pine. And under the white pine are 4 great white roots, which go out in 4 directions. And those 4 directions are all the other races on the entire planet, whether you want to believe it or not. You're living here, as a small group of native people, but there are people all around the world that need to have this message. We're going to bury our weapons underneath it, and the groundwater is going to wash it away, so you won't be able to get at your weapons again. At the top of it, we're going to put an eagle who has the high view, and he is going to call out whenever you are under threat. And when you meet, you are going to meet in a circle underneath this tree. What's that going to look like? 50. There's going to be 50 of you chiefs. No one is taller than any other. And you're going to be surrounding the great white pine of peace. You've heard of the tree of peace? It's sort of a common phrase. It comes out of Iroquois culture. Tree of peace. It's a white pine. And we live here basically in the remnants of a white pine forest. This is the upper edge of it. It's called the Carolingian Forest. And is it Anthony Judge? Is it Anthony or Andrew? Andrew Judge teaches his course with the great white pine. Sort of complements this teaching, and there may be some way to coordinate our courses together and turn the ecological story into the cultural story. And this map is quite interesting because in green is the extent of the Pinus strobus, or the white pine tree. And you can see it pretty well just covers our territory. Pretty remarkable. Jagansisa. Jagannawita goes back to her and says to her, we're now going to organize ourselves in clans. I want to create the clans. And who's going to head the clans? The women. And you are going to be the mother of all the nations. And the women are going to be in charge of the longhouse, not the men. And when the children are born, they're going to take the clan of the mother. Here are the chiefs, their heads, one not taller than the other. This is an incredible art installation by a member of our community called Elizabeth Dockstader. And what she has done, she's used corn husks to create the circle of the 50 chiefs. And in the center is a corn husk white pine tree with 4 white roots. She knows the story well, the story of Elizabeth. She was in a terrible car accident and was virtually paralyzed. And she, through therapy and healing ceremony, she was able to find her movement. And she said to thank the Creator, I'm going to do a great work of art. I know I'm just a little woman at Six Nations, but I can do a great work of art, and this is it. And so this is toured many galleries, and we have it at Six Nations. The dear woman she did create an evocation of our 50 chiefs. It's unmatched. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about the order of the chiefs, because it's very deep kind of what I'm going to call psychodrama. It's not just simply 50 chiefs. Who are these 50 chiefs? Who chooses them? Each nation will choose a certain number of chiefs. This is the circle of the 50 chiefs in a sketch I prepared. And if you go around the circle, you will see there are dividing points. With pointer is not. Where is it? Use my fingers, for goodness sakes. It doesn't show.
This time,
huh?
At least we're recording it this time.
I know. Well, I'm fumbling.
No, that's okay. Oh, there it is. There it is.
Oh, good. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Very
Sorry,
good.
I thought maybe it disappeared again.
Yeah, well, it felt like it.
Yeah.
Now, right here are the Mohawks, okay? They have 3, 6, 9 titles. Then next, let's see. Next to the Mohawks are the Oneidas, as it is in our territory, 3, 6, 9 chiefs there. Then we have the Cayugas, the younger brothers. There's 2, 5, 8, 10. And then here we have the Onondagas here, with the central chief, the Tadadaho, here, and then next to him are the Senecas, 2, 4, 6, 8. These are the keepers of the western door. We Mohawks are the keepers of the eastern door. And the two nations, Oneida and Cayuga, are the sweet younger brothers. They vote, but they vote at the end. And the Onondagas are the fire keepers. They have to keep the sacred fire burning out here. So that's the Tadadaho, the most heinous man that Daganoweda met, is now the chief fire keeper. That was a stroke of genius, really. If we do that with these despots, I guess they'd be happy. I don't know. The circle of the 50 chiefs, like the rings in a tree, growing out, out, out. And I show this. This is what the communication between the chiefs look like when they're deliberating. Each of them are in the outer ring here. Okay, here we have 30 in this beautiful drawing. Behind them are clan mothers, faith keepers first of all, then clan mothers, and then the children. So it sort of radiates out. So the decision making always, if you can believe it, begins with the children. And the mothers go to the children and say, "What do you think, children? Should we go to war with da 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 da? Tell us what you think." So if this was in our culture, we would ask the young people first. And right now the young people are coming to the fore to give us advice first. So it's not far off the replication of the communication of the 50 chiefs. And there is Daganoweda, and then we have our wampum, which shows our 5 nations up here. You'll see it in a minute. The central firekeeper here, and the Mohawks here, the Senecas over here, Cayugas, and Oneidas. And they're always in this order as you go across New York State, always beginning here in the east and going to the west. This is the order of the nations. And here are the 5 arrows bound together I told you about. And that's what it looks like when it's rendered in a wampum. Then we have this wampum. This is the wampum of the coming of Daganoweda. And this is the sky world here, and then he's moving down to the earth and coming to visit the dark heart, which is here. And that's Daganoweda with the white heart. A lot of people see this and they think it's Christian, that this is the cross of Jesus, and this is the saving of the earth. But this is much older than Christianity, if you can believe it. But people won't. They will try to see it through their own lens. And all of us coming together is likened to a longhouse. The landscape of New York is our original longhouse. That's our first architecture. It's not an actual longhouse. It's a metaphorical one in the landscape of New York State. And when it's rendered as a built form, it looks like this. And you'll notice that each of the chiefs has a different Gustoa. This one with 3 feathers, my nation, is Mohawk. This is the central firekeepers, 1 feather straight up. This is the Oneidas. This is the Cayugas, and this is Seneca. And this 6th one is an adopted nation, the Tuscaroras, who we've asked to join our longhouse in the 1720. This is the realm of the journey of the peacemaker, rendered over a satellite image of Lake Ontario. The eastern white pine, the Olatesikoa, the tree of peace, given to all peoples from the 4 directions, all, not just native people, all by the peacemaker Daganoweda, as the centerpiece of our common ground. A huge vision overlooked by the eagle. So that, in a kind of a nutshell, is the great law. The one piece that, let's see, there's the longhouse at Crawford Lake. Yeah. There is the circle wampum that when we meet as 50 chiefs, we take the circle wampum and lay it out under the white pine tree. Because this is, each string of wampum is one chief. And notice they're all white for good mind. And notice the outer ring is two interwoven strings, meaning holding hands, good mind. The center has nothing in it, the great white pine. This is our culture in a nutshell. And a one-piece circle wampum is about that big. Here is the Confederacy wampum, and above it you see the condolence cane. This is also a replication of the chief's titles, but carved into a cane. The cane is used during the condolence ceremony to start it. It's called the high, and you walk up and down the longhouse with that cane, thumping, 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 and they call out the names of all 50 chiefs before we begin the ceremony. It takes a long time to go through the 50 chiefs. Now, just as a hint, down at the bottom, by the way, is the quahog shell from which we made the wampum. So this is the one particular. Now, every chief has a name and a clan. And just to give you a little sense of how meaningful these titles are, the Eastern Doorkeepers, the Mohawk people of the Flint, they have 9 positions. They have 3 clans, Turtle, Wolf, and Bear. The Turtle clan has one chief called Between Two Worlds. He's the one who holds 2 opinions. The second one, he combs his hair. He's Hiawatha. And third, words of equal height, equal words. This one speaks equal words. Wolf. Tree branches out. 5 are life sustainers. And 6, the principal eagle. Then in the Bear clan we have, his horns are dragging, he puts on rattles, and a big branch. You're called upon, you are big branch. What do you have to say? You have to think, well, why am I called big branch? Am I supposed to carry a purpose in that? Well, yes, you are. And you're supposed to think about why your name is Big Branch and how it affects your decision making. So there are 50 titles like that. As I say, when we repeat them during the ceremony where we raise the chief. It's a very, very elaborate. Here is a display of all of our wampum for a teaching circle. And you see on the floor we have the Confederacy wampum, the circle of the 50 chiefs on deerskin, and we have other important wampums hanging on either side of it. This is what we do when we're teaching the community. We bring out all the wampum and then we tell the story of them. And there is the condolence cane resting on a deerskin, where they use this to sing the song High. There we go, Doc Stater. There's Elizabeth there at work, the dear woman. Okay, so that is the great law of peace in kind of a nutshell. Well, what we say in 9 days, very elaborated. I said in 45 minutes or an hour? But I gave you all of the core elements. You can read more about the Great Law of Peace. I'll give you some reference books that have the telling of the Great Law in more detail. But this, what I gave you today, is really what you need to know. And you need to know the parts and how they apply to conditions that are happening today, because they do. The elders say there's an answer to every single question we have in our politics today in the Great Law. If you know it, you can go back to it and find the part of the story that will address the situation we're in. And that's how they say it's so relevant. It's incredible. What other? Are you going to say the U.S. Constitution is a good guide? I don't think so. I mean, protecting people who have guns? I don't think so. You know, promoting slavery? I don't think so. You know, we have parts of it that address the 4 races of the planet. They're all going to come together under the great white pine. And so, you know, I'd like to say in this class, I don't know all your backgrounds, but I'd like to think that we are replicating that circle as a class. That's part of the modeling that's being taught in this. And it's part of what I'd like you to be able to take away from this class. So there's a lot more coming, but this is the heart, the very heart of the very best of the Iroquois culture. And you know it now. You know, you probably learned six or eight things that are known as secret knowledge. But now you have it, because I revealed it to you. First, by saying the name of Draganawida, and then showing you places where events happened that hardly anybody knows about. It's a secret, but it's now time to pull the drape back on that secret and to speak to each other. And that's the symbolism of the drape going down the middle of the longhouse. We pull it back now. Pull the drape on everything and be truthful. This is the power of Native culture. So thank you. We're going to be entering now a nice period where you can reflect and discuss this with me, because you probably have lots of questions. And I'll also have some handouts which I'm going to email to you that are relevant to this talk. Okay. Ona.